You are 20 seconds from either landing safely or dying, and the only thing you have to go on is a single point of amber light. You are in a fighter jet, 3/4 of a mile behind a ship, dropping toward a piece of steel deck that is moving away from you, pitching up and down on the ocean, and barely longer than the jet itself. You are closing on it at over 150 miles per hour. And in about 20 seconds, you will either catch a wire with a hook on the back of your aircraft and be yanked from that speed to a dead stop in roughly 1 second, or you will not. And everything happens very fast and very badly. This is the carrier landing. Pilots call it the trap. And it is, by almost universal agreement, the single hardest thing anyone does in aviation. It does not look like the movies. It is worse. Here's the part that surprises people most. Navy fighter pilots, people who fly into combat, who get shot at, are, by measurable science, more afraid of this than of being shot at. Studies have put monitors on aviators and found that their heart rate and blood pressure climb higher during a night carrier landing than during an actual combat mission. Think about what that means. The most stressful 20 seconds in a fighter pilot's life is not the fight, it is coming home. And it is not one person alone up there either. Landing a jet on a carrier is a team fighting the same 20 seconds together. There is the pilot, obviously, but there is also an officer standing at the very edge of that deck, in the weather, talking the pilot down and judging every second of it. And there is a crew below the deck whose entire job is to physically catch the airplane. So how do all of them survive this, over and over, every single day and night at sea? And later, why the Navy is quietly changing the whole thing. Let us get into it. It starts with a word, the ball. Mounted on the left side of the flight deck is an optical landing system, a set of lenses on a platform that stays level no matter how the ship rolls, projecting a single bright amber light that pilots have always called the meatball, or just the ball. If that light sits level with a row of green reference lights, you are exactly on the correct glide path down to the deck. If it floats high, you are too high. If it sinks low, you are too low. And in daylight, that is a helpful tool among many. But at night, out over a black ocean with almost nothing else visible, that little ball of light becomes the only thing in the universe that matters. As one description of it puts it, you fly the ball. That is it. That is the entire job. At 3/4 of a mile out, the ship hands you off. Control of your approach passes to a landing signal officer, usually a senior pilot, standing right at the edge of the landing area with a radio headset and a switch in his hand that can order you to abort. And you make a call. You tell him your aircraft, that you see the ball, and how much fuel you have left. That last part is not small talk. It tells the crew exactly how much your jet will weigh when it slams down, so they can set the arresting gear to catch that weight. From this moment, for the next 18 seconds or so, you are not really relaxing your hands for even an instant. A pilot on that approach is making dozens of tiny corrections, a touch of power, a nudge of the stick, a correction to the correction, because every adjustment throws something else off, and the deck you are aiming at keeps sliding forward and rising and falling beneath you the whole way in. And in your ear the entire time is the landing signal officer. Power. You are going low, right for lineup. He is watching your jet like a hawk, and if at any point it stops looking safe, he lights up red wave off lights, and that command is absolute. You see red, you go to full power and climb away immediately. No thinking, no discussion. You do not get to argue with the deck. Now the trap itself, which is where the violence lives. Stretched across the landing area are 4 steel cables, each one thick enough to stop a jet, spaced about 40 feet apart. Hanging from the tail of your aircraft is a hook. Your entire job in the last second is to fly a controlled descent, not a gentle flare like an airliner, but a firm, deliberate impact, so that your hook catches one of those 4 wires, and not just any wire. Pilots aim for the 3rd one. The first wire is dangerously close to the back edge of the deck. Come in a hair too low, and you fly into the stern of the ship. The 4th means you came in high and nearly missed everything. The 3rd is the sweet spot, and catching it consistently is how a naval aviator proves they are good. When that hook grabs a wire, the cable pays out into a massive hydraulic engine below the deck, and it drags you from over 150 miles per hour to a complete stop in about 2 seconds and 300 feet. Pilots describe being thrown forward into their harness straps hard enough to leave bruises. One instant you were flying. The next, you were simply stopped, and the world is still ringing. And here is the most counterintuitive thing of all. At the exact moment your wheels hit that deck, you shove the throttles to full power. Not to stop, to go. Because if your hook misses all 4 wires, which does happen, you have maybe a few hundred feet of deck left, and you need every bit of engine power to claw back into the air and go around for another try. It is called a bolter, so a carrier landing is the only landing on Earth where you touch down and firewall the engines at the same time, committing fully to both stopping and flying, and letting the wire decide which one you actually get. If the hook catches, the engines are already screaming against a cable that is not letting go. If it does not, you are already flying again before you have had time to be afraid. Now remember that below you, none of the people who make this possible can see the sky you are falling out of. The crew running the arresting gear are down inside the ship, feeling the ship move, managing the engines that absorb every single landing. The landing signal officer is out on the deck edge in the wind and the dark and the spray, close enough to the impact to feel it, watching jet after jet come screaming in at him and deciding in real time which ones are safe. This is a crew sport. The pilot just happens to be the one strapped to the front of it, and every second of it is being judged. This is the part almost no one outside naval aviation knows. Every single pass, every landing, on the ship or in practice on land, is graded by the landing signal officer and then debriefed to your face afterward. Not occasionally. Every time. Those grades get tallied and posted where your whole squadron can see them. A running scoreboard of exactly how good you are at the hardest thing you do. Imagine doing the most terrifying 20 seconds of your professional life and then having it scored like a test, in public, in front of everyone you work with, and then getting up tomorrow and doing it again. There's a story pilots tell about an aviator who flew a full night landing without realizing the ball, his one reference in the dark, had never actually been switched on. He landed anyway. When the officers came around with the grades, they realized what had happened and, a little embarrassed, gave him the highest score possible. That is how hard this is. A man landed a jet on a ship at night, essentially blind, and the system's response was quiet AWWE. But something is quietly changing all of this, and it cuts both ways. Over the last decade, the Navy has been rolling out software that takes much of the raw difficulty out of the approach. The newest system, nicknamed Magic Carpet, does the constant work of holding the glide path for the pilot, so instead of making dozens of frantic corrections, the aviator can make small, calm ones and let the computer keep the jet on the perfect path down. The F-35 goes even further with an automatic throttle and a satellite-guided approach. It is genuinely safer, and the Navy believes it can push the rate of successful first-attempt landings toward near perfect, and it has already changed something that stood for generations. As of 2025, pilots headed for the Super Hornet and the F-35 can now earn their wings without ever making a single landing on a real ship at sea, something that would have been unthinkable to every carrier aviator who came before them. Which leaves a genuinely hard question hanging over the whole thing. If the most feared, most demanding, most human skill in all of aviation can be handed to a computer, is that a triumph or is something being lost? And the honest answer the Navy itself gives is a careful one. The automation is a gift, but the training still has to make sure a pilot can bring the jet down alone by hand on the worst night of their life, if the technology ever fails. And maybe that is the thing to sit with. Strip away the software, the lenses, the arresting engines, and what is left is almost impossibly human. A person in the dark over a black ocean, 20 seconds out, staring at one point of amber light, making 100 tiny corrections a minute, with an officer's voice in their ear and a crew below their feet and a scoreboard waiting when they stop. They are not fearless. The science says the opposite. This scares them more than being shot at. They do it anyway, every day and every night, because the ship behind them needs its aircraft home, and because the people beside them are doing it too. Fly the ball, catch the wire, do it again. There is another one on screen if you are not done yet.